Hello everyone, welcome once again to this online chemistry class. Today we are going to continue with the same chapter, that is chapter number 1, chemical reactions and equations. In the previous class we had learnt about chemical reactions, that is what do you mean by chemical reactions and how to balance a chemical equation. Hope you must have practiced the way to balance chemical equation and you must be thorough by now. In today's session we will take up this topic, that is types of chemical reaction, and that we'll discuss about combination reaction. There are several types of reaction that you are going to learn, like combination reaction, decomposition reaction, displacement reaction, double displacement reaction, oxidation reduction. There are so many reactions. In today's class we'll discuss about combination reaction. Combination reaction means a reaction in which two or more reactants combine together to give you a single product. Formation of water, like hydrogen and oxygen combines together to give you water. There are two reactants, that is hydrogen and oxygen, they combine together to give you water, which is a single product. Formation of carbon dioxide, that is carbon and oxygen, two reactants combining together to give you a single product, that is carbon dioxide. These can be given as examples of combination reaction. So let's start with the activity given in your textbook, that is activity number 1.4 in your textbook, page number 6. So in that it is said that you have to take a small amount of calcium oxide, which is also known as quicklime, in a beaker, and you have to slowly add water to this, means to the beaker in which you have taken calcium oxide, which is also known as quicklime. So then you have to touch the sides of the beaker and you have to feel if there is any change in the temperature. If you ask me, I would say obviously yes. When calcium oxide combines with water, it leads to the formation of calcium hydroxide and releases heat. So when this heat is released, you feel the sides of the beaker to be warm or hot. So since heat is released here, we call this reaction as exothermic reaction even. So look at this explanation here. In this activity, you have taken some amount of calcium oxide in a beaker and you have added water to it. And when you touch the sides of the beaker, you feel the beaker hot after the addition of water. So it says that quicklime, that is your calcium oxide, when it reacts with water, it forms slaked lime, that is calcium hydroxide, and heat is also released. So the equation is given here, calcium oxide, that is CaO, combines with water, that is H2O, to give you calcium hydroxide, CaOH twice, and releases heat. Since only one product is formed, we call this as a combination reaction. Calcium oxide and water, two reactants combining together to give you calcium hydroxide, which is a single product. We call this as combination reaction. And in this reaction, heat is released because you feel the sides of the beaker to be warm. So we can call this as an exothermic reaction even. So remember here, calcium oxide is also known as quicklime. These names you have to be thorough with. There are objective questions based on such concepts. Calcium oxide is also known as quicklime. Calcium hydroxide is also known as slaked lime. Okay, and you all should know one more thing. This calcium hydroxide, this is normally used for whitewashing the walls of the houses. Earlier they used to use this only, this slaked lime. So when they use this to paint the walls of the houses, they combine or they come in contact with carbon dioxide in the air, and this leads to the formation of calcium carbonate. This calcium carbonate is also known as your limestone. This calcium carbonate is what is used in making chalks, which is used for writing on the board. So this calcium carbonate gives you a shiny appearance. The walls look shiny due to the formation of calcium carbonate. How is calcium carbonate formed? Calcium hydroxide, when it combines with carbon dioxide in the air, calcium hydroxide is already formed due to the reaction between calcium oxide and water, which is used as paint for walls, whitewashing the walls. So when this dries up, it comes in automatically in the air. You have so many gases, carbon dioxide comes in contact with it, and this leads to the formation of calcium carbonate on the walls. It looks dry. See the pellets, the pieces are shown there here as an example to make you understand how it looks. Okay, so This calcium carbonate is what is known as limestone, which is used in chalks, okay, and forms water. So slaked lime reacts with carbon dioxide present in the air to form calcium carbonate, which is a shiny compound. This makes the walls appear shiny or look shiny. So how is this calcium carbonate formed? When calcium hydroxide comes in contact with carbon dioxide in the air, it leads to the formation of calcium carbonate and water. Let's now learn in detail about exothermic reaction. What are exothermic reactions? An exothermic reaction is a reaction in which energy is released in the form of heat or light. Whenever heat or light is released during a chemical reaction, we call that as an exothermic reaction. Just now we saw when calcium oxide combines with water, it forms calcium hydroxide and releases heat. So we call that as an example of exothermic reaction. So during a chemical reaction, if heat is released, we call it as exothermic. Similarly, if heat is absorbed during a chemical reaction, we call it as endothermic. We'll learn about endothermic reaction in detail in the upcoming sessions. Now let's talk about the examples of exothermic reaction. First one is burning of natural gas. How do we call this as an example of exothermic reaction? See, natural gas, that is your methane, CH4, when it is burnt, means when it combines with oxygen, it releases carbon dioxide, water, and energy is released in the form of heat. So whenever in a chemical equation you find energy is released, we call that as exothermic reaction. So when natural gas is burnt, heat energy is given out. So when heat energy is given out, we call that as an example of exothermic reaction. Then your process of respiration. You all know the process of respiration. We inhale oxygen and we exhale carbon dioxide, right? So this process of respiration stands as an example of exothermic reaction. How? See, we all need energy to do work. So from where do we get the energy for doing our work? We get the energy from the food we eat. So you must have learned in your bio part that the food that you eat is broken down into simpler substances during the process of digestion. Especially the food substances that are so-called carbohydrates, that are rich in carbohydrates, like your rice, your potatoes, your bread. These substances are said to be high in carbohydrates. So when these carbohydrates are broken down to glucose, carbohydrates are normally broken down to glucose during the process of digestion. So this glucose, which is formed due to the breaking up of carbohydrates, combines with oxygen present in your cells and provides energy. So this reaction is what is called as respiration. So here the food substances that are rich in carbohydrates are broken down into simpler substances, that is your glucose, and this glucose combines with oxygen in your cells to form carbon dioxide, water, and releases energy, right? The hot air that we expel out is releasing energy. So when energy is released, it stands as an example of exothermic reaction. So the process of respiration is an example of exothermic reaction. And similarly, decomposition of vegetable matter into compost is also an example of exothermic reaction. Since we were learning about combination reaction, let me finish today's session by giving you few examples of combination reaction. Like as we saw, formation of slaked lime from quicklime can be given as an example of combination reaction. Burning of coal, formation of water, formation of ammonium chloride, formation of hydrogen peroxide. These things can be given as an example of combination reaction. So let me sum up. What is a combination reaction? A reaction in which two or more reactants combine together to give you a single product. We call it as a combination reaction. We saw the example of calcium oxide combining with water to form calcium hydroxide, and during this reaction heat is released. So whenever heat is released during a chemical reaction, we call that as exothermic reaction. And in this lesson we had learned the names that we use commonly for these substances, like your calcium oxide, calcium hydroxide, calcium carbonate. Calcium oxide is known as quicklime, calcium hydroxide is known as your slaked lime, and calcium carbonate is known as your limestone. So with this we are coming to an end of today's session. Meet you soon with the other types of chemical reactions, like your decomposition reaction, displacement, double displacement, oxidation and reduction. So please go through the things that are given in your textbook. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.